The crystal cup shattered on the floor of Italian marble, spreading Champagne Dom Perignon through the guest's designer shoes. You shouldn't be here. Madison Hartwell, organizer of Manhattan's most exclusive charity party, pointing to a 35-year-old finger that had just been pushed against the appetizer table. Sophia Morales remained strangely calm as she cleaned the golden liquid of her simple dress, her eyes revealing a serenity that completely contrasted with the chaos around her. At 35, she never imagined that a simple delivery of flowers would become the most humiliating moment of her life, or at least, that's what everyone believed. "Someone call security," he shouted Madison, his voice echoing through the lounge full of millionaires and celebrities. "This person clearly does not belong to an event of this caliber." The murmur spread through the crowd like fire in dry straw. Evil whispers about invaders and illegal immigrants floated by the fragrant air conditioner of the $50 million penthouse. The jewelry shone under the baccarat crystal chandeliers, as contempt of contempt were fixed on the only person there that was not covered with diamonds. Charles Hartwell IV, heir to the real estate empire and host of the party, watched the scene from the top of the marble staircase, a cruel smile playing on his lips. His wife Madison was dealing with the situation perfectly, further proof that he had chosen the ideal partner to maintain his social status untouchable. "I only came to deliver the orchids you ordered," said Sophia in a firm voice, lifting the exotic flower box that was still holding. "Maybe there was some misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Madison laughed with contempt, her $2 million diamonds sparkling under the lights. "The misunderstanding was that you think you could mix with decent people using this pathetic scam." An elderly lady with silver hair whispered to her companion, "In my time, these people knew what your place was." Other malicious laughs echoed through the hall, each seeming to cut the air like sharp blades. The young heir to a bank dynasty pointed discreetly to Sophia while talking to friends. "I bet she came just to steal something. This kind always has ulterior motives." His colleagues laughed, shaking $1,000 champagne cups as if they were toasting their own superiority. The security guards were already approaching, but Sophia did not move. Instead, his eyes traveled the luxurious atmosphere with the accuracy of someone who was recording every detail in his memory. Every arrogant face, every prejudiced whisper, every disdain gesture, all being carefully filed. Madison gestured dramatically to the security guards. "Make it out of service entry and make sure she understands what types like her are not welcome on this side of the city." A guest shouted from the crowd, "Someone should check if she got nothing." Cruel laughs multiplied through the room, each laugh feeding the humiliation that should be destroying Sophia. As he was escorted toward the back door, Sophia murmured something that made Charles frown from above. His words were too low for most to hear, but they carried a weight that made some closer guests if they felt inexplicably uncomfortable. For a brief moment, when Madison grabbed his arm with unnecessary force, Sophia allowed a flash of something much deeper than resignation to cross her gaze. It was as if she were seeing through each person in that hall, seeing something no one else could see. "You don't know who I am," Sophia whispered almost unaudibly. "Your words directed more at the universe than to the people around you, but they will find out." One of the security guards hesitated for a second to hear something familiar in her voice, but soon continued to push her toward the exit. Madison nodded for him to accelerate the process, clearly anxious for that embarrassing situation to be resolved quickly. There, in the face of all the eyes of contempt, Sophia remained firm as those who keep too powerful secret to be revealed before the right time. If this story of prejudice and overcoming has touched your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple moment of humiliation would become the greatest turnaround that the Manhattan elite never witnessed. At the service entrance of the building, Sophia was pushed by the security guards out as if it were disposable garbage. The cold of December night cut her skin as she remained there, stopped on the sidewalk, watching Penthouse's golden lights through the huge glass windows. "Thanks for getting rid of that embarrassing situation," told Madison to the chef and security, sliding a $100 note in your hand. "People like that don't understand boundaries. It's better to make it clear that we don't tolerate invasions." Back in the hall, the guests had already resumed their elegant conversations as if nothing had happened. Charles slowly descended the stairs, savoring every second of the humiliation that his wife had perfection orchestrated. "Honey, you have dealt with it masterfully," he murmured in the ear of Madison, kissing his neck covered with diamonds. "These people need to learn that there are consequences when they try to mix where they do not belong." Madison smiled with satisfaction, adjusting the sapphire earrings that cost more than Sophia would earn in 5 years. "I can't believe she had the audacity to get in here pretending to be one of us, as if we didn't notice the difference immediately." A socialite approached, shaking his head in theatrical disapproval. "Did you see how she said? Clearly there was no adequate education. I bet you can't even read it right. Other malicious laughs echoed through the group, each feeding the atmosphere of toxic superiority. Charles lit a $1,000 Cuban cigar, his words coming out of puffs of smoke. The problem with these people is that they don't understand natural hierarchies. They believe they can simply appear in our events and pretend they belong here. Outside, Sophia walked to a black Mercedes parked around the corner. Upon entering the car, he took the phone out of his pocket and dialed a number. Dr. Harrison? It's me. Yes, I just got out of the Hartwell party. You were right about them. How it was? He asked, a male voice distinct from the other side of the line. Exactly as expected. Madison expelled me in front of all the guests. Charles watched everything from the top of the staircase, clearly having fun. Sophia looked out the window toward the penthouse. They didn't even do the slightest idea of who I really am. Perfect. Now we have everything we need for the next phase. Are you sure you are prepared for it? Sophia first smiled that night, but it wasn't a smile of joy. It was much more dangerous. Doctor, I've been preparing for this moment 2 years ago. They humiliated the wrong person. Meanwhile, at Penthouse, Madison posted photos of the party on her social networks, including a selfie with the caption, "Perfect night with even more perfect people. Just elite life. Just charity gala. Only the best." What she didn't know was that every photo, every word, every gesture of contempt had been carefully documented by someone much more prepared than she could imagine. Charles was in the private office, celebrating with another cigar. "Madison, honey, come here. I want to toast your performance tonight. You really know how to put these people in your place." "Just protecting our social circle," Madison said, joining him with a glass of champagne. "We can't allow anyone to invade our events. Imagine what our friends would think if they found out that we leave any immigrant mingle with us." One of the guests approached, still laughing at the situation. "Did you see her face when it was pushed? It looked like a scared animal. These people really have no dignity." An elderly lady with ancestral jewelry waved approvingly. "In my time, these people knew what their place was in society. They didn't try to go through something they aren't." Agreement murmurs echoed through the hall. "The worst," Charles continued, "is that she probably came here with ulterior motives. Always come, looking for something to steal or some opportunity to take advantage of working people like us." Madison laughed cruelly. "I hope she has learned the lesson. Perhaps now understand that there are consequences for those who dare challenge the natural order of things." Across the city, Sophia hung up the phone and remained in the car for a few minutes, processing every cruel word she had heard, every look of contempt she had received. But contrary to what anyone in that penthouse would imagine, each humiliation only strengthened its determination. She opened a folder in the back seat of the car, revealing documents, photographs, and files that Charles and Madison could never suspect that they existed. 2 years of meticulous preparation were about to yield fruits in a way that this arrogant elite could never predict. What those privileged people did not know was that every act of contempt was writing their own sentence, and that the woman who had just humiliated had something much more powerful than money or social status. She had the truth and knew exactly how to use it. The next morning, Sophia was sitting at Manhattan's most prestigious law firm, in front of a glass table that cost more than the most people earn in a year. Dr. Michael Harrison, senior partner at the Harrison & Associate firm, studied the documents she had brought carefully. "These contracts are impressive," he murmured, adjusting the designer glasses. "Are you sure you want to proceed with it? Hartwell are not exactly known for accepting defeats with elegance." Sophia smiled with the same serenity she had shown the night before. "Dr. Harrison, I spent the last 2 years preparing for this moment. Every humiliation, every look of contempt, everything has been calculated." The lawyer flipped a few more pages, his expression gradually changing skepticism to pure astonishment. "My God, are you Sophia Morales, the founder of Mortash Solutions?" "The same. And now you understand why I was so calm last night." Sophia crossed her legs, her posture revealing a confidence that had nothing to do with the submissive woman who had been expelled from the party. Meanwhile, at the Hartwell penthouse, Madison had his $500 breakfast prepared by a private chef, still radiant with the success of the night before. She had no idea that her bank account was about to suffer a financial earthquake. Charles read the Wall Street Journal in his gold iPad, occasionally commenting on real estate fluctuations. "Honey, did you see that the technology company Mortash has announced a new acquisition? $500 million. These technology people are swimming in cash." "What a disgust," answered Madison, without lifting his phone from his phone. "Probably some lucky nerve, not like us who built our fortune with class and family tradition." Across the city, in the Mortash Solutions office, a technology company valued at $2.8 billion, Sophia signed the latest documents from an operation she had been planning for months. Hartwell Properties' strategic acquisition was not just a business, it was the first movement of an elaborate checkmate. All Hartwell buildings for rent contracts are now under our jurisdiction, his financial chief director James Chen, a former Goldman Sachs executive who had left Wall Street to work with Sophia. This includes the penthouse where they live. Technically, starting today, they are their tenants. Sophia laughed softly, remembering how Madison had ordered her to come out for the service entry. The irony was too delicious to be a coincidence. And investigations into their business practices? Sophia asked, opening a folder full of cool documents. We find irregularities in 47 lease agreements, systematic discrimination based on ethnic origin, abusive eviction practices, and clear violations of the fair housing laws, answered James. We have testimonials from 23 families who have been rejected or expelled for clearly discriminatory reasons. Dr. Harrison called in the afternoon. Sophia, I need to give you some information. It seems that Hartwell is planning to sue you by invasion of private property. Madison has already contacted our competitors. Perfect, said Sophia, her voice carrying dangerous satisfaction. The more noise they do, the better it will be for what comes next. That afternoon, Madison posted on her social networks a series of stories telling about the invasion of her party for an opportunistic immigrant. Each post generated more support comments from their millionaire followers, all agreeing that these people needed to learn their limits. What Madison did not know was that each post, every cruel comment, every public demonstration of prejudice, was being meticulously documented by a team of lawyers specialized in cases of discrimination. Charles, inspired by his wife's posts, decided to give his own version of the facts to a conservative blog that often cited his opinions on cultural invasion and loss of traditional values. Your 30-minute interview would be published the next morning. Did you see how this woman tried to infiltrate our circle? Charles said during the recorded interview. It's exactly the kind of behavior we are seeing more and more. These people don't understand social borders. Sophia watched the live interview of her office with James and Dr. Harrison by her side. Each prejudiced word was like an additional gift for the case they were building. He really has no idea what he is doing, Dr. Harrison murmured, shaking his head. It is digging the legal grave itself. Sophia finished the day at her minimalist coverage at Upper East Side, just 3 Hartwell penthouse blocks. Through the panoramic window, she could see the lights in the building where she had been humiliated less than 24 hours earlier. Your assistant brought the report final. All pieces are in place. The documentation is complete, the media has been warned, and lawyers are ready to act as soon as you give the signal. Sophia opened a bottle of Chilean wine, not by chance, the same country from which her parents had immigrated 40 years earlier with only dreams and determination. Tomorrow the world will find out who Sophia Morales really is, and Hartwell will learn that underestimate someone can be the most expensive mistake of their lives. That night, while Madison posted more glamorous photos on her social networks with hashtags such as Nova Yorkwilitis and family tradition, Sophia finished the last details of a plan that would turn yesterday's humiliation into the sweetest victory she had ever experienced. Each document signed, each contract executed, each strategic movement had been carefully orchestrated for this moment. The next morning would bring revelations that would shake not only the Hartwell, but the whole New York elite, who thought money and surname were enough to ensure impunity. What none of them could realize was that every act of cruelty, every public demonstration of prejudice, every word of contempt was being transformed into legal ammunition by one of the brightest minds in the business world, someone who had learned to transform pain into power and fuel humiliation into justice that would be as precise as devastating. At 7 in the morning of Thursday, Charles Hartwell woke up with the incessant noise of his phone ringing, 3 lost calls of his lawyer, 2 of his accountant, and an urgent message from Madison. Turn on the TV now. The couple gathered in the living room, still in a robe, while the morning news showed a headline that made Charles Gellar's blood. Technology billionaire reveals identity after being expelled from prejudice. This is impossible, murmured Madison, his hands shaking as he held the remote control. That woman was a flower delivery. On the screen, Sophia Morales appeared in an exclusive interview, wearing an impeccable suit, calmly talking about the events of the party. Alongside his photo appeared the impressive numbers: CEO of Mortash Solutions, a personal $2.8 billion fortune, a worldwide recognized philanthropist. The truth is that I didn't go to the Hartwell party as guest, Sophia said in the interview. I was the owner. I just acquired the entire real estate portfolio of the family, including the penthouse where they live. Charles dropped the cup of coffee, which shattered on the marble floor. No, it can't be true, the reporter continued. Hartwell's social networks, where they publicly documented their party expulsion from the party, already accumulate millions of views. Videos clearly show discriminatory comments and practices that violate federal laws of just housing. Madison ran to the phone, dialing frantically to Dr. Richardson, his personal lawyer. "You need to come here now. We did something terrible." "Calm down, Madison," said Charles, trying to keep the composure while sweating cold. "It was just a misunderstanding. We can explain." On the screen, Sophia continued with the same serenity of the night of the party. "For 2 years, I systematically documenting Hartwell Properties' discriminatory practices. More than 40 families were rejected or dumped for clearly ethnic reasons. Hartwell did not know that I was building a federal case against them." Charles's phone rang. It was James Peterson, director of the Hartwell Properties Board. "Charles, we need to talk urgently. The shareholders are in panic. The shares plummeted 60% in 2 hours." "What do you mean 60%? Charles shouted, his voice breaking. "Mortach has released all the evidence. Discriminatory contracts, internal messages, meetings recordings. Sophia Morales had access to everything, and now the media is spreading that she owns our own buildings." Madison collapsed on the couch, finally understanding the magnitude of what she had done. She planned everything. Every word, every humiliation, was part of a plan. On TV, Sophia's lawyer explained, "We have evidence that Hartwell systematically violated the fair housing law. This week's social media posts are just the tip of the iceberg. Criminal and civil proceedings will be moved today." Charles tried to call his bank, but the line was busy. Tried the accountant, busy too. When finally managed to talk to someone, the news was devastating. Accounts frozen by court order, federal investigations started, and all commercial contracts being canceled. "How did she get all these documents?" asked Madison. His tears blurred the makeup of $1,000. "Apparently," said Charles with a hoarse voice, "she bought our security company 6 months ago. She had access to each email, each meeting, every conversation we had in the office." Dr. Richardson arrived 2 hours later, his shadowy expression revealing that it was not brought good news. "Charles Madison, you are facing federal accusations, housing discrimination, civil rights violation, and now, with social media posts, we have a clear evidence of incitement to hatred." Madison looked through the panoramic window, seeing reporters gathering at the entrance of the building. "Our life is over, isn't it? The evidence is irrefutable," the lawyer continued. "Sophia recorded conversations, documented emails, has testimonials from 23 families, and the worst, your own social networks confirm each accusation." Charles approached the window, watching the movement on the street. "She was 3 steps ahead all the time. As we thought we were humiliating any immigrant, she was collecting evidence to destroy us. What neither could completely sue was the surgical accuracy of Sophia's plan. Every insult, every gesture of contempt, every cruel word had been transformed into a devastating legal ammunition. The woman who thought she had broken there was actually a state breaking them from the first moment. 6 months later, Sophia Morales was on the main stage of the Manhattan Convention Center, speaking to an audience of more than 1,000 people at the annual Social Justice Forum. His presentation on how to combat systematic discrimination had become viral, inspiring legislative changes in 8 states. "True justice," she said to the ecstatic hearing, "doesn't come from revenge, but from the transformation of pain into purpose." Applause echoed through the auditorium while she showed slides with impressive numbers. 127 families relocated to dignified dwellings, $2.8 million in compensation for discrimination, and the creation of the Morales Foundation for Fair Housing. At the bottom of the auditorium, Charles and Madison Hartwell watched through a live transmission on their cell phones. They were sitting in the waiting room of a 2-bedroom apartment in Bronx, the only place they managed to pay after losing everything. "She's talking about us," whispered Madison, her hands shaking. Without diamonds and designer clothes, she seemed to have aged 10 years in 6 months. Charles didn't answer. Her gray hair was unkempt, and the stress marks were visible on her face. Federal investigations had resulted in fines of $15 million, house arrest for 6 months, and the complete loss of their businesses. All his former friends of the New York elite had cut contact immediately. "I didn't understand," Sophia continued on stage, "why they chose to humiliate me that way. Today I know it was the universe giving me exactly what I needed to expose an entire discrimination system that operated in the shadows." Dr. Harrison, now legal director of the Morales Foundation, smiled from the front row. The Hartwell case had become a national legal reference, being cited in federal courts as an example of how to document and process systematic discrimination. James Chen, who had left his executive position to become the foundation's chief financial officer, whispered to Sophia at the end of the presentation, "This week's donations exceeded $3 million. Its story inspired donors from around the world." "The most amazing," Sophia replied. "We have received requests for help from 23 different countries. It seems that housing discrimination is a global problem that needs local solutions." After the event, Sophia visited the housing complex that had been built on the ground where the Hartwell commercial building was once. 40 low-income families, all previously rejected by the company of the former owners, now lived in modern and worthy apartments. "Mrs. Morales," he shouted, an 8-year-old running toward him. "My mother said you helped us have our home." Sophia knelt alongside the girl, remembering herself at the same age when her family had been dumped by biased owners. "What matters most is not where we came from, but where we're going," she said softly. A woman approached, carrying a baby on her lap. "Mrs. Morales, I was one of the families that Hartwell rejected because my last name sounded too foreign. Now my children have a safe home thanks to the lady." That night Sophia had dinner on her coverage alone, watching the city lights that now respected her, not for her money, but for her courage. His phone rang. It was a message from a young Mexican lawyer of Los Angeles. "Mrs. Morales, I'm facing a similar situation to yours. Can I mark a conversation?" Sophia smiled, typing her answer. "Of course. Justice works better when we work together." Meanwhile, in the tight apartment from Bronx, Madison cried silently as he read comments on his old social networks. Each photo of the charity party now had thousands of comments condemning their prejudiced attitudes. His account had been suspended after activists discovered other evidence of discrimination in their past posts. Charles, sitting at the small kitchen table, signed the latest divorce papers. Madison had discovered that he had been having an affair for 3 years, a bitter irony, considering how they had judged Sophia for not belonging to their environment. "You know," said Madison in a hoarse voice, "I really believed we were better than her, that our money gave us the right to treat other people like trash." Charles looked through the dirty window of the small apartment, remembering the panoramic view of the penthouse. "She tried to teach us humility kindly by delivering flowers. When we don't learn, she taught us definitively. You tried to destroy me," Sophia had said in the last court hearing, "but ended up giving me the greatest gift of my life, the certainty that I could turn injustice into a positive impact." A notification arrived on the phone from Madison. It was an article by Forbes about Sophia being named one of the most influential women in the United States. The description specifically mentioned how it had transformed personal discrimination into social revolution. "She won," whispered Madison, "not only against us, but created something much bigger." Sophia Morales' story has proven that true revenge is not to destroy her enemies. It is to build something so powerful and significant that it makes any attempt at humiliation irrelevant. She has learned that when you turn pain into purpose, not only heals your own wounds, but also builds bridges so that others do not need to cross the same abyss. 2 years after the incident, Sophia received a letter. It was from Madison, handwritten on simple paper. "Mrs. Morales, I know I don't deserve her forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that you taught me that purposeless privilege is just disguised arrogance. I'm working as a volunteer in a shelter for homeless families. Thank you for showing me who I really was." Sophia put the letter in a special drawer. It was not about forgiveness, it was about transformation. Some people need to lose everything to find their humanity. If this story has touched your heart and showed that justice and dignity always overcome arrogance and prejudice, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories that prove that our origin never determines our destiny, just our determination to transform obstacles into opportunities for growth and lasting social impact.